planet. Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You know on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that while I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the court. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Stripes like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut you short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzzer beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is up, Man Hour Nation? Michael Buckhashi here with the Man Hour. Be sure to hold to manhourradio.com and check out the merch on that page and pick up the Beastie merch. Beastie has been on a roll all season long. Give him some merch. Give him some support. Of course, take away the Takeaway 22 merch as well. That is over there. That is live over there at Man Hour Radio. But first, we got to welcome the man, the myth, the legend, the peanut butter to my ladies, Brandon Beastie Combs. What's going on, Beastie?
What is going on, Buckheiser? What is going on, Man Hour Nation? Belly Up Sports, what is up? Man, I am pumped. Look, we have been spoiled for 2 straight weekends in the NFL. 2 straight, just great games. Coming down to the end, there has been no blowouts. They've kept you guessing the entire time. It has been insane. I know you're a little upset about the early game, Buck, but, I told you.
What did you tell me? What did you tell me?
I picked the Bengals. What are you talking about? I picked the Bengals to win this week.
Jeez, but
I told you.
Yeah, Combs. When we won the coin toss, Combs, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, man, this game's over. I was busting I was dusting off the old championship hat up on the shelf. I was getting ready to put it on my head, but Patrick Mahomes has never thrown an interception in a championship game. Well, he threw 2 today alone. I mean, the Bengals have been on a tear for what at least the last six weeks. Earlier in the season, we were basically saying these guys are bipolar. You never know what you're going to get. But Combs, are the Cincinnati Bengals the biggest surprise this year in the NFL?
I would say so. I would say that not just this year. I think they might be the biggest surprise in NFL history. I don't know. I can't remember a team. You might think back to a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, making that run with Big Dick Nick. You might look back to the New York Giants, who got into the playoffs. I believe they were 9-7 that year. They came back and beat the undefeated New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. But, this is a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in 30-plus years. 3 weeks ago, we were saying it's crazy. Nobody has ever sent a text message about the Bengals winning a playoff game. And then they did it, and we were like, oh, now we can all send a text message. And then they did it again to the Titans on the road. And we're like, oh, great. They won 2 in a row. Not too big of a shock that they beat the Titans. The Titans are probably the most susceptible team in the AFC. And then everybody's counting them out against the Kansas City Chiefs. And what did they do? They fell down big, and they stayed with it. And I myself, look, I picked the Bengals to win this game last week on the show. And when they fell down 21-3, I turned to my father-in-law and I said, look, this team is not built to come back like this versus a Kansas City Chiefs team at Arrowhead in the playoffs. Regular season, throw all that stuff out the window. I know that they did it to the Kansas City Chiefs. That game against the Kansas City Chiefs was in Cincinnati, by the way.
Yeah.
So this was in Arrowhead. This is the playoffs. This is Patrick Mahomes. And then they lose the coin toss, right? And then I'm like, oh, well, there it is. This is going to happen 2 weeks in a row for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Bengals, they find a way. They played great defense there down the stretch. That Mahomes was running for his life in the second half. I don't know what the talk was in the locker room at halftime because, look, Mahomes was having his way with their defense. Like, Mahomes was just doing whatever he wanted to that Cincinnati Bengals defense all game long through the first 2 quarters. And then in the second half, it completely changed. The team that we expected to pressure the quarterback was the Kansas City Chiefs. There's no offensive line there in Cincinnati. I mean, a very subpar offensive line. I'm not going to say they're bad, but they're not good.
Oh, they're the worst in the NFL,
line.
hands down.
No, they're not. I disagree. I mean, I've watched the Chicago Bears for 5+ years now. They're not the worst offensive line in the league, but they don't protect Burrows very well. They weren't doing a good job of helping Mixon today, and all of a sudden the Bengals just find a way in the second half, and they just go to town. Joe Burrow, man, this guy is. I don't know how we don't root for. I don't know who to root for in the Super Bowl, because you got Matt Stafford and you got Joe Burrow, and I think I've said before, Matt Stafford is the most underrated quarterback in NFL history, playing with the Detroit Lions. I'd really like to see him get a ring, but Joe Burrow, man, I just don't know how do you root against Cincinnati after all they've been through?
Yeah. So I do see Alpha Rob in the chat. Shout out to you, man. He says serves Kansas City right. They should never been there anyways. Come on, man. Just because we beat down your Bills, slow it down, baby. But what's up, Drew, as well? So is Cincinnati Bengals the biggest surprise in the NFL? Hands down, Collins, just because, 2 years ago they had 2 wins. Last year they had 4. Hell, their freaking quarterback got knocked out week 10, and we didn't even know if Joe Burrow was going to come back and even be a shell of himself that he was the first 9 weeks of his rookie year. So hands down, this is the biggest surprise ever. And then to come out and win the AFC North. The AFC North was probably one of the most competitive divisions all season long. You can say what you want about the Browns and the Bengals and the Steelers, but they were all competitive. If you would have let any of those teams slide into the playoffs somehow, some way, I feel that they would have probably been in the same position as the Cincinnati Bengals right now, because they're so battle tested throughout the season. And you cannot root against Joe Burrow. Like, when you walk into the NFL stadium with so much ice on your body, I mean, I was looking at that scene, I'm like, man, we're going to lose just by that freaking chain on his neck. That's like he had the old school Nike swish on there. Like, man, it was ridiculous.
Dude, I was cracking up after the game. You're seeing all sorts of memes come out, and all of a sudden you start seeing Joe Burrow jokes, the old Chuck Norris jokes are now Joe Burrow jokes. And it's like the guy is taking the world by storm right now. And I love afterwards their head coach. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. The head coach there is like, who they? We them.
Oh, Zach Taylor.
That was the great, because that's who they are. That's who they are. That's who this team is. And we said it all year long, right? We said this is the hardest team in the league to figure out. Yeah. We don't know which team is coming in and week out. And from probably about week 14 on, they've been the best team in the NFL. They've been that team, and I don't know why anybody is surprised. I was surprised that they were able to come back the way that they were, because when I picked them to win the game by 2 scores. I was surprised at the way they came back, but I am not surprised that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
So we do have some people over here on the YouTube chat. Shout out to you guys. Also, shout out to Mike Reese for joining us on the Facebook side of things as well. Drew says Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald deserve a ring. Nobody really deserves a ring, Drew, but if you are in rooting interest, I feel that Matthew Stafford would have a rooting interest over Joe Burrow to win a ring, just because Matthew Stafford is 33 years old and Joe Burrow's like 23. So Joe Burrow has many years again to possibly get to the Super Bowl again, but to say that Matthew Stafford's more deserving than Joe Burrow right now, I'm going to say absolutely false on that 100%, because the Rams bought themselves a team's Combs. Let's just be honest about it. So, the Rams have these purchase services, as I like to call them. They bought Von Miller. They bought Odell Beckham Jr. They bought Sony Michel earlier in the in the year.
So what? That's what an NFL team is supposed to do.
When you bought a championship, basically.
Look, it's not. First of all, it's not buying a championship, and I don't want to hear anything about buying a championship from the guy who is sitting here sporting his fandom for the Kansas City Chiefs, who have like a AFC Pro Bowl team roster, and then
we drafted that. We did not go out and buy that. Come on now.
All right, I'll give you that. You drafted it, you didn't go out, but so what? They spotted weaknesses, they spotted needs, and they went out and got it. That's what a professional organization is supposed to go and do. Kudos to them for going out and getting it.
Von Miller was the steal of the trade day.
Von Miller was the steal for absolutely, for sure. And OBJ is playing at a different level than what we saw him play in Cleveland. Now, I disagree with our guy, Soup Boss, who talks about, oh, his dad was right, he was just being misused. No, he was just on bad teams. I'll give him that, but he wasn't putting up the numbers either. But he's still a bad teammate. He's still a guy who quit on his team. He's still a guy who threw his team under the bus and went running up to go try to chase a championship, which is fine. Good for you. Now you're going to play in a Super Bowl. Good luck, because the Bengals aren't going away.
Yeah. So with all that being said, the Rams outlasted the 49ers, finally breaking that 6-game losing streak that they had against the San Francisco 49ers, Combs. But are the Bengals, or should the Bengals be the favorite going into Super Bowl?
Yeah. I know the Rams are the home team. And the Rams are one of those teams that, look, they can go out and put up 70 on the Bengals before the Bengals even know what hit them if they wanted to. The problem with the Rams is they do what they've done all year long. They go out, they score, they get up, and then they just stop. They do what the Chiefs did to the Bengals today. They try to protect the lead as opposed to continue to gain their lead. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I have been able, just because I live in the area where I get to watch I get to watch a lot of Cincinnati Bengals games on CBS, and I have had the privilege of watching them at least the last 8 or 9 weeks of the NFL season, and they have been a second half team every game there. For whatever reason, they come out flat. They come out unexpired. Just for whatever reason, they're not ready to play. I don't know if Zach Taylor gives him some cocaine and hookers at halftime, or literally just shoots their asses up and down. But they come out at halftime firing on all cylinders. If just like we've been saying all year, the Cincinnati Bengals are bipolar. We don't know which team is going to show up, but we do know what team is going to show up in the second half after the cocaine bumps that they take. Should they be the favorite? No, they should not be the favorite. Continue to give them that underdog role, just because of the Rams have purchased their team and they're at home. They got Matthew Stafford. They got a great defensive line. One stat that was surprising to me is that the Kansas City Chiefs did not get a sack all game long, but the Tennessee Titans got 9. The Cincinnati Bengals are going against the best defensive line in all of football in 2 weeks, Combs. If Joe Burrow comes out alive, I will be surprised.
Look, I get what you're saying, and I don't know how you can be surprised. Did you watch Joe Burrow today? When Kansas City had him dead to rights, he looked just as good as Patrick Mahomes does when people have him dead to rights. He escaped pressure. He found ways out of it. He was a freaking Houdini of quarterbacks, found a way out of it, and was able to make plays happen. He is phenomenal. Joe Burrow is a top quarterback in this league, and he proved it today.
Yeah, so Drew comes out and said, Combs, not tonight, not so fast there, big guy. The Rams were down, and they come back in the second half. No, Drew. What happened in the second half is Jimmy G started to throw the ball. Kyle Shanahan forgot to realize that they are a run-first offense. Once again, Kyle Shanahan shit the bed for the San Francisco 49ers trying to play out of themselves. What do you think about that?
And not only that, once you become a team that puts the ball in the hands of Jimmy G and you expect him to go win the game for you, that's when you get yourself in trouble.
Yep.
And I mean, we're going to talk about this here in a little bit, but I don't know that we see Jimmy G as a starting quarterback again in San Francisco.
Yeah, so we were actually watching the very last play of that game right before the show came on, and Jimmy G did that little underhand interception, and I sat here and like told you that look on Jimmy G's face looks like F you, San Francisco, I'm out of here anyways, I don't care, right? And so do you truly think Jimmy G is out in San Francisco?
Yeah, I thought he was out prior to the playoffs. I said anything short of him winning a Super Bowl, even if he wins a Super Bowl, he still might be out. But I said anything short of a Super Bowl win, he's definitely out. So I absolutely think he's out.
Yeah, so let's transition to that final game on Sunday night here, where the 49ers ultimately did lose to the San Francisco 49ers, breaking that 6-game winning streak that they held over the LA Rams. This is the second year in a row that the NFL that the home team will be hosting the NFL game. Is the NFL truly rigged, Combs, now?
Look, man, this is the biggest argument that makes you go, right? Because before all that, I'm like, people are just conspiracy theorists. No, it's not rigged. They don't already know who's going to win the game before it happens. Do refs make terrible calls? Yes, but they make terrible calls all over the league for every team, blah, 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 blah. But last year, right, what did we have? We had stadiums that were empty. We had stadiums that in the Super Bowl was only going to be 60%. We had travel restrictions because of COVID. We had everything. And all of a sudden, a home team is playing in the Super Bowl. And when somebody brought that argument to me, I was like, yeah, I don't really have a comeback for that, because that actually might make a little bit of sense. However, it was Tom Brady. Tom Brady with the best supporting cast he's ever had. And then this year it's the St. Louis Rams, who, I mean, they were, I said when it was the Cardinals and the Rams wild card weekend, that Monday night, I said the winner of this team goes to the Super Bowl. I had no doubt in my mind that once the Rams beat the Arizona Cardinals, they were the best team in the NFC. I thought those were the two best teams in the NFC going at it. So I don't think that the NFL is rigged. I don't think that there's, any, and I've heard players that have come out. I've listened to interviews, of players that have said that it's rigged after playing in the NFL. Some of them sound like disgruntled guys who got cut too soon and right. Didn't really get as much money as they wanted to make or something. But I don't think it's rigged. I don't think you can get a group of grown men to say, hey, look, you battled all year long. This is the NFC title game. This team's going to win. You're going to lay down, and this is how it's going to happen. If that's a thing, if that ever comes out that is actually a thing, and this is really just a high performance version of the WWE, I'll eat my words. I just don't see it.
Yeah. So if let's say the NFL is rigged by some crazy way, it would not be by the NFL teams itself. It would be by the NFL commissioner and the referees, just because referees can literally change the whole aspect of a game by one non-call. We saw it earlier in the Chiefs game. The Chiefs defender literally had the dude's hand pulling it back and no call at all. But yet, fast forward an hour later, he breathes on him. It's a PI, right? So, I mean,
yeah.
I feel like, if it was to be rigged, these last two weekends of the playoffs would hands down be the best storybook writing ever. Just so like, hey, let's let a team jump out and a team battles back and every game ends in a last second field goal. Why not, right? So, I mean, like, I get it, but it is hard to say that the NFL is rigged in any way, to be honest with you.
But wouldn't you expect that if they were, they make enough money to make sure that not all of them happen with 4 seconds to go and not all of them happen in the same exact fashion? Like, I mean, you saw the look on Josh Allen's face after he lost that game in Kansas City without even getting to touch the ball. That was not a look of a guy who knew he was going to lose that game.
Right.
That was the look of a guy who was completely and utterly just annihilated in his heart. Like his heart was shattering as we watched it.
Like I was saying, like the teams don't know it is rigged, but the referees and the commissioner know it is rigged. Like that's the only way you could possibly have the product that they have putting out on the field. You know, people giving their heart and soul to a game, but it being rigged by them not knowing about it, but it is rigged at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, look, unless they're getting a great payday. I mean, because look, I used to be a big fan of WWE. Actually, I watched last night's Royal Rumble. It was the first thing of WWE I've watched, I think, in maybe 2 years,
right.
Maybe even longer than that. And, you know, the writers do a job and they already know ahead of time who's going to win and what's going to happen, but these guys still put their bodies on the line even knowing that they're going to lose. I mean, some of the stuff that they do at these events are crazy. So I'm not going to say it's impossible to get all these guys to do what they do. I just don't think it's plausible.
Right. So let's stick to the actual game that we know and love here. We have two quarterbacks that we are rooting for basically in the Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford. How do you not root more for Matthew Stafford than Joe Burrow?
Yeah, as you watch, Matthew Stafford right now is on TV hugging his wife and giving her a kiss. Look, this man has been through so much in his NFL career. Having to deal with that shit show in Detroit, an organization who year after year Buck picks to be 11-5, and they haven't won 11 games, I don't think, in the last 11 years. So I don't understand how you can go into the Super Bowl and look at Matthew Stafford and be like, God, I hope that guy doesn't win. I think you can look at the Los Angeles Rams fan base. I think you can look at the organization and be like, wow, I root against them. Their fan base, all of LA sports fan base is probably the worst fan base.
What fan base
in the world?
Jeez.
Subas is telling me he texted his two friends who have season tickets for the Rams. He asked what the atmosphere was like. He said all of the people around us who have season tickets for the Rams sold their tickets to Niners fans.
Really?
Like, I mean, that's insane. Like, that is absolutely insane to me.
Why would you do that? Once a lifetime opportunity.
Because I get it from a financial standpoint, right? Because, I mean, what do you think that those tickets went for? What do you think those tickets went for? I mean, you're probably looking, if you've got 2 tickets, you probably just put an extra $7 or $8 grand in your pocket.
True.
Right? You know, so, I mean, like, I get it from a financial standpoint. From a fan standpoint, look, if I've got Bears tickets and they're in the NFC title game and they're in a dome stadium and it's warm and I don't have to worry about the weather, I am not selling my tickets. I might sell my tickets to a Bears fan, a friend that I know or something like. There's no way on God's green earth, if they're playing like the Packers, who are, a divisional rival, or the Vikings or the Lions,
right,
there's no way I'm giving my tickets up to an opposing team. No. You can't do that. Like, that is just the worst fan base in the world. But Matthew Stafford, God, this man deserves a ring. This man deserves a title. This man deserves people to have his back for once, because he's been dogged his entire career for what he did and didn't do in Detroit. And now he's proving that, look, all I needed was some help.
Right.
All I needed was some help.
So let me ask you this question before we head to our first break of the night. Is this the best possible Super Bowl matchup that we could have had?
No. I mean, look, it's hard to say because these are two teams that won, and they're really good football teams. I just think, God, I mean, look, Rams versus Chiefs would have been epic. Buccaneers versus Chiefs would have been another great one.
Well,
Brady
the Bucs
versus
lost
Mahomes
last week.
again.
Come on, baby. Last 4 teams.
Well, yeah, but I mean, of the last 4 teams, I was rooting for San Francisco and Cincinnati, just because I wanted everybody's brackets to go up in flames, right? Because nobody had these two before the playoffs started. But right. I mean, it's a great Super Bowl matchup. I don't know if it's the best that we could have had, though.
All right, guys, so we are up against the first break here up on bellyup.tv. If you guys are watching us on youtube.com/man, I'd be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button as well. And we'll be right back after this quick little break, guys.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your fucking clout, it be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. 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 Anything negative, cause I just wanna hear it out your mouth, yeah. Give me fuel, it's a tool that I use to go ahead and run my fucking mouth, yeah. I take shots, I take loss, I make shots, I miss lots. That's how you get big box, you get yachts, you swing lots and pop off a big shot. I ain't done chasing, got big dreams, bigger things, impatient. Who's at the top think they need replacement? Who's at the top think I'm gonna erase it? Face it, I don't give up quick, I don't give up shit, I won't give up this. Cause I know that I want it, know that I'm on it, I'll make it, I promise. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
And welcome back to the Man Hour, guys. Michael Buckeiser along with Brandon Beastie Combs tonight. Combsy, let's go ahead and jump over to the chat line here a little bit. Drew says, where did I see it? What did he say? He says, Drew said he played in Detroit for 11 years. Trust me, Stafford deserves a ring. Joe Burrow plays in Cincinnati where he literally blew his knee apart last season because the offensive line was so bad. He deserves a ring too, Drew. So who deserves it more? I mean, honestly.
I mean, Matt Stafford's been in the league for a lot longer and has suffered through a lot worse things than just a blown-up knee. But what that Bengals fan base and what that Bengals organization has been through over the last 30 years. I mean, 2 years ago, they had the best record in the NFL, right? And that's how they ended up with Joe Burrow. And now they're headed to the Super Bowl. And you got Jamar Chase, you've got T. Higgins. They've got weapons there. They're going to be good for a long time. I feel terrible for the tight end Uzoma, who was a huge weapon for the Bengals, and it is not going to be able to play in the Super Bowl.
Did he tear his ACL?
But I believe that's what it was. It was
looked
a torn ACL.
Like, I thought he broke his ankle.
The way he landed was gross. But yeah, it was. I feel terrible for a guy like that. But this organization and this fan base, to me, like. Yes, I'll be if the Rams win it, I'll be happy for Matt Stafford.
Right.
I could care less about, and I'll kind of be happy for Aaron Donald too. I could care less about Odell Beckham. I don't even want to see him on the stage. Von Miller, I'll be happy for a guy like that, but he's already won a ring. But for the Bengals, if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, I'll be happy for an entire city, an entire fan base, an entire organization.
Right.
That has just struggled through it. And as a Bears fan, as a Cubs fan, as a Blackhawks fan, I sympathize with that stuff. So,
yeah, so I mean, I'm rooting for Joe Burrow himself because of the fan base at LA, of sickly everything that you said. Season ticket holders were selling their tickets to the NFC Championship game, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to the opposing team. It doesn't make sense to me. So if I'm leaning one way or the other, I'm leaning to Joe Burrow just because of the fact that I don't like LA fans. I mean, like, LA fans are just as bad as Miami Heat fans, right? They show up late to the game. They leave early, right, Javier?
No, you should see the Dodgers. Like the Dodgers, when the Dodgers play, and I'm watching the Cubs play the Dodgers over on the West Coast. It's a late game. It never fails. They don't pack the stadium until the third inning, and it's half empty again by the seventh.
Yeah,
like look, I get it. It's great weather. It's LA. It never rains there. You know, there's better stuff you could go do, right? But I mean, look, you just don't find that in other fan bases. Or other fan bases, when their team is playing, they're there for the most part. I mean, there are like you go to Tampa Bay and find a terrible fan base there too.
Yeah.
You know, but there's no commitment, and not all of their fans, because there are some committed LA fans, right? There are some fans that are
25 of them.
I've got a friend DJ who you know, I sent a congratulatory text to after the Rams just clinched a Super Bowl, because I know he's a diehard fan. No matter what the Rams do, no matter what their record is, he's a Rams fan. But even he agrees with me. He's like, "Yeah, dude, we suck." He's like, "The fan base is terrible."
So let's kind of jump off script here a little bit. When we look at NFL fan bases alone, are the Rams the worst?
No.
Jacksonville.
God, I don't know about Jacksonville either.
They were trying to sign Tim Tebow just to put asses in the seats, Combs. Come on now.
Yeah, but that's just because they're not a winning football team. They're a bad. I mean, Houston's just as bad of an organization. Doesn't mean their fan base is terrible. You got to look at if I'm looking at bad fan bases, I'm looking at the Rams. I'm looking at. I'm trying to think across the league real quick. You know God. You know what? You're right. Yeah, they're the worst fan base in football. I can't think of another. I thought maybe Detroit Lions fans.
No, like the Lions. Like I went to the Lions
there.
game a couple years ago when they played the Chiefs. That place was packed. It was rowdy, and it was a good time over there. I mean, Lions fans love their team.
Yeah, you're right. I do. I think it's Rams fans. They're terrible.
Is it because they've moved cities like every 12 years?
Yeah,
like they started in LA, then they moved to St. Louis, and then moved back to LA.
It could be, but I mean, hell, I mean, you could move that franchise back to St. Louis. I bet you get better. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, I mean, it's a pretty good damn fan base. I mean, they love their teams, whether their teams are winning or losing. They are always showing up, and I hate St. Louis with every fiber of my being.
Yeah,
but they're a good fan base.
Drew says the Jets are the worst.
No, the Jets are rabid. I mean, the Jets fan base every year thinks they're winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they got that fireman there. That fireman alone puts the Jets in the top 15 fan base. That guy is there, rain or shine, win or loss, in his fireman hat and a t-shirt. Like, he is partying. Yeah, man.
I mean, I'm looking at it now. I'm looking to try to see if I can, if there's a worse fan base that I could think of off the top of my head. You know, a lot of my stuff goes towards
or the
baseball.
Rams.
Yeah, but even the Florida teams, when you like the Miami Dolphins, are always full. They're always selling out. But you can find a lot of Patriots fans, but they're just a team that travels well. Yeah, I mean,
how about this? Who is the best?
I guess it is. Oh God, there's a lot of arguments there. But to me, you know, look, and I'm not going to say the Bears here. I think the Bears have a great fan base. I think that they have a loyal fan base, even though they don't deserve one. I think that the best fan base in the world is the Raiders.
Yeah.
They are. Dude, that black hole is insane.
Yeah. Give them a couple years, and Vegas just to figure out that travel arrangement from Oakland to LA. It's like a 90-minute flight or something, something like that. But I bet you there's an airline that hooks people up with flights here soon, and that black hole will be rocking. But
yeah,
I think the Green Bay Packers fans are the best fan base, honestly, Combs.
Get the hell out of here.
Because they travel in groves everywhere you go.
Here.
Them and the Dallas Cowboys. I went to the Colts game, the Colts Cowboys game a couple years ago.
Dude, you know why they're such a good fan base?
Because they're everywhere. America's team, baby.
Have you ever been to Green Bay?
Yeah, I've been to. I got
there is nothing to do in Green Bay other than go to Lambeau Field.
So, party on.
That's the only reason why they go to games. There is nothing else to do. It's literally little mom and pop shop, little mom and pop shop, little mom and pop shop, Lambeau Field. And the little mom and pop shops are closed on Sundays.
Which they should be. Which they should be. That's the best fan base in the world. Hands down. Drew. So Combs, Soup Boss kind of brought this up earlier. He says, what do you think of OBJ now? We talked about this earlier.
I still think OBJ is a terrible teammate. I think that he quit on his team. I don't like OBJ as a person. I think he's a diva. I think he's overrated as a wide receiver. I don't think he is all that as a wide receiver, but he's still a good above average football player.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And that hasn't
average.
changed.
Yep.
I've said that all the time. I don't know where we got into this argument with Supos earlier, and he's like, "No, you guys said that OBJ was terrible." I said, "I never said OBJ was terrible. I never said he was done. I said he's a shitty teammate. I say he didn't deserve the Cleveland Browns." Absolutely should have parted ways with him. The fact that he went to the Rams, went on an absolutely positively loaded team, and added depth to that team. It doesn't mean much to me. Like that's not OBJ didn't lead this team to the Super Bowl.
No, they would have. So the only reason why OBJ was a factor was because once he was signed, that one receiver tore his ACL. I can't even think of his name right now off the top of my head, but that's the only only reason why he was a factor. So I still think that OBJ is a POS hands down, because there are reports and rumors coming out of him from 2019 when the Browns played the Cardinals, and he was saying to the Cardinals, to Kyler Murray and the boys, "Hey, come get me. I need out of Cleveland now." That was 3 years ago, before all this fiasco with Baker Mayfield blew up, right? So he has been planting the seed for a very, very long time to get out of Cleveland and basically go to a different team. So that tells me that he was probably tanking, right, half-assing stuff and just doing what he wanted to do to get out of there, to get out of town. But speaking of getting out of town, Combs, Mr. Adam Schefter himself, Mr. Sheffy, he reported that Tom Brady will be retiring after 22 years in the NFL. But reports quickly came out and said nothing has been official yet. Tom Brady's dad, Tom Brady Sr., actually come out and said that my son is not retiring and will be playing for next year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, Combs, I got to ask you this question. If Adam Schefter is wrong about this Tom Brady thing, this will be the twice or three times he has been wrong, kind of jumping the gun this season. The other thing comes to mind is draft night when Aaron Rodgers was going to be traded, right? Does Adam Schefter lose all credibility if Tom Brady comes back and plays next year?
I don't know if he loses all credibility. I just think that, and I still think that Tom Brady is going to retire. I think it's just a matter of he wants to be the one that announces it.
Right.
And I don't know who leaked the info to Shefty. I don't know who told Shefty that this was a thing, and then Shefty thought it was okay to go and report it. Everything Tom Brady has done throughout his career has been well thought out and precise and produced and all that stuff. And that's what this is going to be. Tom Brady is going to come out on his podcast, or he's going to come out on some sort of video to put up on his Twitter account or whatever the case is, and he's going to announce his retirement his way. Hell, maybe he even signs a one-day contract with the New England Patriots to retire as a New England Patriot. But he's going to do it his way. And I still think Shefty is right. I just think that he might have jumped the gun a little bit, and that didn't rub Brady the right way.
Yeah, so Adam Schefter has been what's the word I'm looking for? Like the voice of the NFL insiders for many, many years, right? Probably as long as Tom Brady has been in the NFL. And he prides himself of being the first guy, right? Because he has that information. He has this, and this, right? But what if Tom Brady had every aspiration of retiring, and the fact that Adam Schefter leaked it, Combs, he's like, you know what? F this guy. I'm going to come back and win championship number 8. And if he decides to leak it again, F it. I want to play till I'm 50. Because didn't Tom Brady say he wanted to play till 45? And he's 44 now,
He
right?
actually said 50 a couple of years ago.
Oh, well, I believe when he was like 42, he said he wanted to play three more years. And this and next year would be his 30th year with the Bucs, and that would take him up to 45 years old. So it irritates me when media personalities like Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or whoever, right, comes out and tells us all this news when it is not their right to say it. Like, yes, there were speculations about Big Ben retiring all season long, but he came out and he put out a nice little tribute video. It was well written, it was well spoken, well produced. He put it out like on Twitter, I think, and you know that like that's how it officially got shared. It wasn't a leak by Adam Schefter. Like, I feel like there should be some type of a gentleman's agreement, like saying, hey, I know this. I know you are going to retire, but you know what? I'm going to wait until you say something. What is Adam Schefter trying to prove here?
I mean, look, he's Adam Schefter, and this is probably the biggest story in NFL history, right? I mean, this is the Michael Jordan of the NFL. Tom Brady is the GOAT. Tom Brady is the guy who people will talk about after he retires. He shouldn't have to wait the 5 years. They should just retire him now. They should just put him in Hall of Fame. They should do everything, retire his number. Those are the talks, just like they had the talks when Jordan retired, right? Should they waive the 5 years and just put him in the Hall of Fame? I just think Shefty was you know, he got the news. He was told something by somebody who he clearly trusts, because Schefter doesn't just throw stuff out there. He wouldn't have the reputation he has.
He doesn't throw stuff out there. What about Aaron Rodgers BS?
Look, that Aaron Rodgers story is an Aaron Rodgers thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers was the source in the Aaron Rodgers story, just so that he could create all the drama, because that's what Aaron Rodgers likes.
Right.
Shefty doesn't have that reputation, and I think it's still going to happen. I just think it needs to happen on Tom's terms. Tom it's that story, and it's Tom Brady, and it's going to be the story of the offseason. It's going to be different. It's going to be really different in the NFL without Tom Brady. Yep. Big Ben being retired now. I mean, that leaves only 3 starting quarterbacks left in the NFL that have won a ring. 32 teams, 3 quarterbacks have won a title. 3 starting quarterbacks, because you do still have a couple backups like Nick Foles out there who have won a ring, but he's not a starting quarterback. So that to me is crazy. And only 5 starting quarterbacks have ever even been to a Super Bowl in the league now. Yeah. So now we've got a new era now. I mean, it's official, right? The new era of quarterbacks is upon us. So I don't blame Shefty for jumping the gun here.
If Aaron Rodgers does come back, is his credibility shot, though?
No, I don't think it's shot. I just think if Tom Brady comes back, I'll be extremely surprised. And if Tom Brady comes back, the Bucs are the favorites again.
Are they?
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
So
he's Tom Brady.
so you say if Tom Brady comes back, the Bucs are the favorite. So therefore, Tom Brady is a dominant athlete and a dominant figure in the NFL. Will we ever see any player dominate the way Tom Brady did in the NFL ever again?
It's funny because I talked to a couple people about this over the weekend, and one of the things that I said is if Patrick Mahomes wins against the Cincinnati Bengals, then the talks probably start, right? Because then you've got a guy in Patrick Mahomes with 4 years, 4 AFC title games, 3 Super Bowls. But I don't think we ever see anybody dominate for a 22-year stretch. In his 22nd season, heading into the season, his team was a favorite at the age of 44.
Right.
To go back and repeat as Super Bowl champions. And that would have been his 8th Super Bowl ring in 11 tries. Now he finishes with 7 out of 10, which is still not too shabby. I mean, I don't think we ever see that ever again. Can Patrick Mahomes get back? But yes, look, Patrick Mahomes, look at the quarterbacks in the AFC right now. Look at what is about to come upon us, right? You got Joe Burrow, who just beat Patrick Mahomes. Right. You got Josh Allen, who nearly beat Patrick Mahomes. You got Justin Herbert, whose team is only going to get better and only going to get stronger as they build around him. Okay, you've got quarterbacks galore, and they're all in the AFC right now. And so the way that this is all shaping up, I think it's going to be AFC dominated for a little while. I know we've, in Major League Baseball, we had a long time where the American League, the National League just couldn't compete with the American League, right? I think for a long time right now, the AFC is just going to be very heavy and very dominant. You might see an NFC team sneak up in there every once in a while and win one, but you're going to see a lot more AFC teams over the next 10 to 15 years win championships than you are NFC teams.
All right, guys, so we are up against a break again, and I just got some breaking news into _Buck on the old Twitter machine. Aaron Rodgers is going to Tampa Bay to bring Devontae Adams and Gronk down there. So there we go.
Gronk is gone. Gronk will not play for Aaron Rodgers. He will not play for anybody other than Tom Brady.
How about this? Gronk goes to Kansas City, and they do a 2 tight end dynamic duo. Dude. With McCole Hardman and Travis Kelce with Tyreek Hill on the outside.
You want to talk about buying titles? Don't ever talk to me again if that happens.
Would it be buying a title though? Like, what if he just signs for like a league minimum?
Dude, you put Gronk on the field with Kelce, Hardman, Tyreek Hill, and Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback.
Yeah.
Just don't even God.
So some more breaking news just came in. Gronk did just sign with the Kansas City Chiefs. And Leonard Fournette is going to Kansas City as well. Oh, and I think Mike Evans just signed as well.
And they just signed the top 5 offensive linemen in the league as well.
There we go. Okay, all right, cool. Guys, we are up against the break. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, gang, it's Commissioner Cooper from TSS Fantasy. We are the fantasy show of the people. That means we give the people what they want. Expert fantasy advice, leading medical and legal analysis, free contests, and innovative games to keep you entertained. Watch us live with the Tiki Live app on the Belly Up Sports channel, subscribe to us on YouTube, or follow us on all social media platforms. Visit TSSFantasy.com today for all the latest updates from the fantasy show of the people. We put the fun in fantasy.
Yeah! I use mayo over sour cream, yeah.
Right. That's because you have high cholesterol. Okay. If you drafted Julio Jones,
you got ghosted.
This is amazing. TSS Fantasy is like an orgasm. If I had a cigarette, I'd smoke it. I'm pumped to be here. This is the show of shows.
TSS Fantasy, the fantasy show of the people.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quench the thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic. Go to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
And welcome back to the Man Hour, guys. Michael Buckeyes along with my man Beastie Combs and I. We are back together for a little while. I'll be back all week here on the evening show here at 8 p.m. on East Coast time on youtube.com/Man Hour, because I got the Rona last week, Combs, and I got to be quarantined for 14 days. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't, because 5 is the rule, but whatever, it is what it is. So we've had a great show so far. The Rams beat the 49ers in a last-second interception by Jimmy G. The Bengals outlasted the Chiefs in overtime because Patrick Mahomes played like complete dog crap to second half. But you know who's been playing like total dog crap all season long, Combs? That is the NFL officials. This is by far the worst officiating that I've seen all season long, and it has definitely carried over into the playoffs as well.
I thought we were going to talk about the Bears.
No, so we'll talk about the Bears later in the week, I'm sure. They've had some great hirings there. But why did the NFL, or how has the NFL refereeing got so bad?
Because the NFL hasn't done anything about it. They stand behind the referees. They back everybody up. They say everybody's like, there is no punishment for the NFL referees to have bad games. What do? They send the teams a letter midweek saying, you know what, you're right, that probably shouldn't have been called, and we're sorry. Doesn't do them any good. There's no win taken back. I mean, I watched you take the games today, right? The first play to T. Higgins, that the Bengals are throwing the ball into the end zone to try to tie the game 7-7. His arm is nearly pulled off of his body, and as he's trying a one-handed catch. The video angle literally clearly shows the referee staring right at the play, no call, right? And then you've got Tyreek Hill at the end of the first half going into the end zone. He runs past the guy, brushes up against him, and they call pass interference.
Oh.
So they're stop it. You know that's true.
Don't give me that.
That's what they did. It don't matter now. The game's over.
Right.
So, and then you look at the Rams-Bengals game. I mean, the Rams, clear as day, had at least 5 or 6 times where they had delay of games. That clock had hit 0 at least 5 or 6 times, and they were still allowed to pass the ball. There is no punishment for the officials. Like, if you go back to the 49ers this week later and say, you know what, we missed about 5 or 6 of those delay of game penalties, that could have changed the face. What good does that do the Niners? They're still sitting at home watching the damn Super Bowl. Right. Like, it does them no damn good. The NFL doesn't care.
Yeah, and if we think about this hindsight here, if the Baltimore Ravens would have been called for their delayed game versus the Detroit Lions, the Detroit Lions would be sitting in the Super Bowl right now because that one win could have catapulted their whole season, Combs. So, no, but, like, seriously here. So we have been kind of flirting around with the idea in Major League Baseball of robot umpires. You've been a big advocate of that, and actually in the AAA aspect, they are doing a robot strike zone this season. But how can the NFL fix their referee thing? Just because there is so much happening on an NFL play, you clearly can't have a robot there. You need 8 pair of human eyes on there just to even call half of the penalties that they do call. How do they fix this?
Well, there's 2 ways that you can fix this, and I think you should implement both of them, to be honest with you. One is a sliding scale pay system for your referees. you get a certain you have the referee sit in the room with a senior official, the guys who are on the sidelines or the guys who are in New York making the replay calls, and you go over every call you made in the game. If you are 90% or above accurate, you get 100% of your pay. If you are 80 to 90% accurate, you get 80% of your pay. Like, that is something that would clearly fix this, right? Because when you start hitting guys in their pockets, they start listening.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a field supervisor for a construction company. If my sub screws something up and I hit him in his pockets, that's when he goes and fixes it and takes care of it, right? Otherwise, he's going to be like, no, you just go ahead and have your guys fix it and just pay me anyway. That's not going to happen, right? So you start hitting them in the pockets, that's when they start feeling it, and that's when they fix their mistakes. The second way, go to the same damn system that the NHL has, where like in the NHL, you can review anything. Anything is reviewable. But if you're wrong and you lose the challenge, it's a penalty. And you get a 2-minute penalty kill. So the other team gets a power play for 2 minutes. Same thing in the NFL. If you're wrong on a challenge, make everything reviewable. But if you're wrong, 15-yard flag. Make it a 15-yard penalty if they're wrong. Because yes, now everything's reviewable, but the coaches aren't just going to throw the flags on every play. Because if they're deemed to be wrong, it's a 15-yard penalty, and 15-yard penalties are a lot. Just like same thing in the NHL. A 2-minute power play could kill your entire game. So you don't do that. So I think that's the two ways that you fix it. You go to a sliding scale, you hit them in the pockets, hit them where it counts, until you make everything reviewable. But if the challenge is wrong, you give them a 15-yard penalty.
So at first I was totally against the whole 50 or challenge everything. And then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's not such a horrible idea. Maybe Combs is on something just a little bit here. But then I got to thinking of, like, what do we do in the high school realm here? In high school, I get a card of, like, every official, and I give them a grade at the end of each game. Do I, did they do this well? Did they do this well? Get it right. So that basically affects them of, like, if they can referee a postseason game, right? It also affects them if they can referee at my high school next year, right? So
I don't like that though, but because if you lose a playoff game, you're a head coach and you lose a playoff game, and it's because a ref blows a let's talk about Saints versus who was it a couple years back? Saints
Vikings,
versus Rams a couple years back. No, Saints versus Rams, where he interfered with them. I believe it was Jalen Ramsey too. Yeah. Interfered with them early and said, of course I interfered with them early. That's what I was trying to do.
Tipped still.
But if that
was the Bears. That was the Bears game.
It was not the Bears game. It was a playoff game. The Bears don't play in the playoffs.
Yeah, that was Nick Williams' game, wasn't it?
No. Now they lose that game. That ref had a perfect game, missed that one call. But because he missed that one call, and it was such a big call, what do you think his grade was after that game?
Well,
by the coach,
you average it throughout the whole year. And there's going to be outliers. There's going to be extreme bad and extreme good, and you find that happy median. So you average it out, like at the end of the day.
Yeah, but do you grade each? I mean, there's so many referees in the NFL. Do you how do you be like? Yeah, well, you grade because how did this referee do it? I don't know. I don't even know he was on the field. So is that an automatic?
You have 25 grade? Assistant coaches. You hire one more to watch these set of referees, this set of referees. Like they have so many eyes. Combs is just like they're perfectly fine. They can definitely figure it out.
I don't like it. Man, our nation, you guys help us out. What do you guys think? Do you guys like my idea of the 15-yard penalty, review everything?
I do like that idea.
And giving them a sliding grade pay scale for referees? Or do you like Buck's idea of grading the officials?
Which is the same thing as, but you just have higher power grading instead of the coaches. What if you do both? What if you have fans vote, right? And then the higher powers and then the head coaches, and they make it all one collaborative.
Here's another thing. If you make a call that costs the team a game and it's deemed that your call was incorrect and you made that call, you should be suspended for the next week.
Ooh, that would make him swallow the whistles, though. I think we have a lot more non-calls.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
For
Man
sure.
Hour Nation, we got a bone to pick with you guys. We had a poll going over here at youtube.com/Man Hour, and we said who was going to win the Super Bowl, and it's 50-50, Combs. we don't have a winner.
You guys are no help.
We don't have a winner. Who do you have winning the Super Bowl way too early? You got
If I pick right now, I'm picking the Bengals.
And I'm picking the Bengals as as well. I want to see Joe Burrow win, but
yeah, I think the Rams will jump out to a big lead, and I think they'll sit on it. That's been their MO all season long, and I think the Bengals, they showed today you can't sit on a lead with them.
All right, guys, that's gonna be it for Man Hour tonight. Combs, send us out, big guy.
Man Hour Nation.